we started thinking on a cloud first. The technical and the cultural challenges came along with that. Also around the capital expenditure versus the OPEX, operational expenditure. We did realize and recognize that, control might be an illusion. It doesn't drive the agility levers from focusing on data outcomes only rather than the infrastructure. Infrastructure played a very pivotal role. So that's the phase. The sixth phase would be when we were hit. We were going all hunky and dory. Many people were thinking cloud by default.
Of course, business alignment is also a top priority. How are you seeing this role? Is it already different from what it used to be years ago? What is your take?
Yeah, I think it has evolved and changed a lot over the last 5 to 6 years through our learnings right from the COVID and post-COVID phase. How we have gone from a mindset, there has been a mindset shift wherein we are thinking about growth. So acting as a CFO, CEO, CTO of the future also, using stability to fund experimentation and growth to justify the departments.
Hi, you're watching The Mainstream. I'm Simran Shiwalkar, your host for today. I'm thrilled to have been joined by yet another leader in the industry, Mr. Rajneesh Garg. Firstly, Mr. Garg, thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of the series.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much, Simran. A wonderful event, by the way, of Mergestream and Mainstream recently, which we got to attend, all the CIOs in Jaipur. Kudos to you and your team.
So thank you so much. That really means a lot. And I'm sure looking forward to more such events. With that being said, let me take some time. Let me take a moment to also share a few things about you with the audience today. To begin with, Mr. Rajneesh Garg is the Chief Information Officer and Senior Vice President at Allcargo Global Limited, bringing over 27 years of global experience across IT, digital transformation, and strategic technology leadership, with a strong focus on AI-led innovation, cloud transformation, as well as operational efficiency. He has led multiple initiatives across different industries, including logistics, manufacturing, retail, and energy. He's known for his leadership approach along with a strong business alignment, which combines strategic vision with execution excellence to drive business growth. I'm particularly thrilled to know more about his journey and also gain some insights from him. So without any further ado, let's begin. Mr. Garg, to begin with, like I said, almost a 3-decade experience now in different industries and global markets. What have been some pivotal moments for you, and how has this journey been, from a leader's lens?
Great, thank you. I think that's essential time. So I would say almost 28 years, and hence I will do a 7/24 demarcation, as in because these are 7 phases which I think I've been transitioning into. So to start with, when we had joined the industry, it all started with Y2K and kind of a pre-cloud era, right? Which was boring at times for us when we started as programmers, and tedious. Boring in the sense the architecture was boring, the user interfaces were not as much as we see now, and ever evolving, landscape of the interfaces. Then the first, I think, big milestone which we see. So that's the phase 2 would be, how do we become cost center or revenue center through our localization, kind of a globally robust core with local customization being offered as services back to our customers. Third, I would say, is the financial crisis. Then we were again hit by 2008-9 by a financial crisis, wherein we learned how much difference it is there between cost cutting and value engineering, fostering a philosophy that every technological investor must have clear business purpose and, negotiated skills with other vendors. Other vendors now have started coming into the play. Earlier, we were quite into silos, doing our own thing. But in 2008 and 9, that's a key learning, how to differentiate between cost cutting and value. Through also the parallel support of very useful vendors. Then came very cautionary, transitioning, I would say, from being, just a coder or building kind of an architecture to becoming a steward. Steward in the sense, from builder to steward, for that you need an understanding. And that trust is a non-renewable resource. And security formed the foundation already. So I'm talking about sometime in 2011, 2012. So that's the 4th phase. So moving on to the 5th phase, which came again in 11-12 itself, 2011 to 12. We started early on-prem to the cloud move. A big event. Yeah, we started thinking on a cloud first. The technical and the cultural challenges came along with that. Also around the capital expenditure versus the OPEX, operational expenditure. We did realize and recognize that, control control might be an illusion. It doesn't drive the agility levers from focusing on data outcomes only rather than the infrastructure. Infrastructure was played a very pivotal role. So that's the phase. The sixth phase would be when we were hit. We were going all hunky and dory. Many people were thinking cloud by default. Already ERPs are also burgeoning and developing into a major workforce. Then we were hit, unfortunately, by an unprecedented event, was pandemic, wherein also came was functioning mid crisis, and how this digitalization kind of brought in the chain together and formed a human transformation with the help of this emerging technology. Very key learning. Then of late, in the last 4 to 5 years and going on and forward, I would think would be the inflection point around the AI and Gen AI led agentic AI, as we speak of as now, foundation. So it is all about how do you go ahead and accept or embrace the intellectual humility in the face of this particular change, which is very expedient, abandoning any long-term rigid roadmap in favor of adaptive architecture, continuous learning. So yeah, it will keep on changing. So evolution has been great. Simran, again, to summarize through these 7 phases, not necessarily 4 years each, but around 28 years of my experience, what I have felt in my industry is that evolution has moved from focusing on making only technology work to preparing organizations for unprecedented future, being resilient, building trust, balancing innovation, and this is all under the umbrella of global stewardship.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of your journey, of your vision as well. And rightly said, so past following years have it's already been about AI, automation. I mean, Gen AI and agentic AI are already beyond buzzwords now. We are already hearing them, being a critical part of every boardroom discussion. Speaking of which, today all technologies, all emerging tech, AI, automation, cloud are reshaping every enterprise in different, priorities as well. From a business leader's point of view, from a leader's, lens, how do you ensure that these initiatives move beyond, experimentation? They translate into something meaningful and create that business impact.
Yeah. So the goal would be to make AI, automation, cloud, all these together wrapped in a security layer as more reliable as we grow always, and an integral as if it is kind of an energy or electricity, you might call it, shifting from, only shifting our focus only from novelty items to also the standard operational practice, how we will scale to the AI-led innovation. So this is the way forward. We can have each of us as CIOs, we can bring in that culture wherein we also get to meet our end users. And this is something, again, coming from my personal experience the past couple of years, wherein we reach out to our different geographies. We are global in any case, 180 countries. So you can imagine out of these, 90 are very active. So many people, so many expectations, compliance and regulatory norms, the rule of the land, which we have to adapt and adopt each of them into our homegrown ERP system. So how do we bring in that innovation mandate? It starts from there. Then also, expanding it and running it through with our board, right? Also the acting as a kind of a CFO, wearing that CFO hat also, as to what would bring us through this particular transformation on these pain areas, and then bucket them. So understanding the problem, the challenges, defining them would be the first task, right? Apart from the other levers, which I already talked about through my learnings in the phases. And how do we go ahead and present it to the board to make them also successful, right, and grow together with your CEO and CFO?
Absolutely. And taking cues from that, every CIO today is beyond a CIO. To be, to elaborate on that, he's wearing multiple hats. From every conversations that even I've been having with a lot of CIOs from across industries, I'm sure it's not a surprise to you as well. Considering that this role, which is moving beyond operational efficiency, it is becoming far more strategic. How do you balance innovation? There is cost optimization in picture, there is long-term digital vision, and of course, business alignment is also a top priority. How are you seeing this role? Is it already different from what it used to be years ago? What is your take?
Yeah, I think it has evolved and changed a lot over the last 5 to 6 years through our learnings, right from the COVID and post-COVID phase. How we have gone from a mindset, there has been a mindset shift wherein we are thinking about growth-linked OPEX model. Also in our KPIs, I think the inclusion of how do we contribute to the top line of any business, which we are in or representing, how do we contribute through technology? So I would suggest a very strong or a very, out of the box, I would say, thinking of mine personally would be every CIO should be enabled with very good CTO who runs the BAU, which the CIO was running earlier, apart from the different other project charters purpose, I would say, because now the CIO's role would be more focused in aligning with the thought process or the vision of the organization. So working closely with the CEOs and the CFOs, presenting it back to the board, which I was alluding to in my last point also, would be the new mandate. You can't keep pace with the ever evolving technology at such a fast pace. So hence that CTO acts as an enabler, accelerator, I would say, a catalyst who can accelerate that, keeping you also abreast as a CIO. And together as a workforce now with your tech team, you can go ahead and bring in the richness, the right amount of richness for what is required for the right of business decision. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier also, it is towards stewardship. And now it is also about, the P&L ownership of the whole shop, wherever you can contribute. So acting as a CFO, CEO, CTO of the future also,
It should
using
not come as a
stability to
surprise.
fund experimentation and growth to justify the department's existence.
Thank you so much for sharing light on that. And moving on, let's go back to your journey. What leadership principles have remained very constant with you throughout these years, regardless the scale or complexity of any industry or any business that you have been with?
Yeah, I think it all starts and boils down to, I won't talk technical, but the thing which has stood out and helped assisted me is in being a servant leader always, kind of, working along with the team, getting to know the team, building that trust actually is the foundation for any success to build upon. I think in my leadership, this is the most essential thing. Then it naturally comes down to, once you have the trust of your own people, the team, the vendors included in here, or the partners, the collaboration partners, then you build on your strategies. Like there's no more a 30, 60, 90-day plan. The trust can take you anywhere from 3 to 6 months to build it, walk into a new shop, right? And after you have won that, you can get into, I would think, in order, data sovereignty, because that's a big business enabler. That is also something which I have learned. The right data in place, I'm enabled, very well equipped, trustworthy team who also respects each other and is working in cohesion. So that is one very key aspect.
Well, and speaking of the future of technology, speaking about the future of business, we are already 3 months down the year. 2026 already started with Big Bang. A lot of new announcements from a lot of global organizations. What do you believe should be the next top priority for CIOs who are navigating this extremely interconnected AI-driven world? What is next for CIOs from your point of view?
Yeah. Again, it will go to the basics because context is at the crux of all of it. If you have the context, you understand the challenge, problem, you build upon that. Don't go by, multiple cases and I'll do 20 AI projects this particular year. That doesn't work. Earlier, just to, ride onto the bandwagon, we used to do that. Now we shouldn't be focusing on that. We should be very clear that our context and the foundation is built through trust, an enabled team, right data, which is the only, I would say, only the real currency, I would say, data and trust. And then become kind of, I won't say very micro managed approach. Be someone who is participative, also goes ahead and empowers people to really produce results. These all things we are applied in our AI projects also, wherein we tossed 30 odd, say, POCs, out of which only 6 made, but 6 made it to the production. So that was a wonderful story that can be in itself a case study, how we converted it. So we focused on small baby steps. We said for AI, every time you go ahead, you should have these baby steps. So we took 2 regions out of, say, identified 6, loopholes we could uncover from the organization. And it was customer retention is one problem. Yeah, time to respond to the customer. As in our business, it's quotations, how fast they get it, how engaged we keep them. Yeah. And it's not only about discounts or, perks. No, it is about effect. That is one case study. Let be successful AI projects. And then also workforce enable. How do you sort the mail, for example, the mail folders? How do you help them organize so that person can go ahead and do not FIFO approach, a first in, first out, but most important, right? First in doesn't mean that it should be first out. So attending and hearing it out. If you are hearing it out, if the customer feels at the end of the day, be it AI today or into the quantum age also, or the collaborative AI also, it would be collaboration of agentic AI, right? Which is coming as a feature. Right now, we are focusing only on one autonomous agentic AI, but soon it will be a multiple thread of AIs, wherein each AI will need to understand, again, challenges or the service areas which it has to cater. So essentially, the principles are not changing, right? The architecture is, technology is, which is good, which is in a way acting as an accelerator. So accelerate to understanding. would be mine.
That should be perhaps the mantra for the coming years for all CIOs, navigating this extremely complex landscape. But thank you so much, Mr. Garg, for simplifying a lot of things for me, for making this conversation very candid and insightful at the same time. I'm sure our leaders and audience have a lot to take away from this episode. So thank you once again. And while we wrap up, I most certainly look forward to connect with you again.
Thank you so much, Simran. It has been a pleasure. Always good to share and visit back your journey, right? Because we are ever enthused into this AI evolvement. And thanks to mainstream team.
Thank you as well.